Good morning, everybody. I hope you are having a fantastic week. Welcome to another vlog. Today, we're going to be going over my results from week 1 in my strategic storytelling class. I've gotten some feedback from my professor on my assignments, and we're going to go over that, as well as I'm going to show you how schools make sure you don't do plagiarism, so you can be aware if this is a class you're going to be taking at SNHU. So let's get over here real quick. Let me set up. I was over here, thought I was set up. I'm not set up. Horrible. Okay, let me make sure I got, yep, there. Bop, bop, bop. All right, let's switch over. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. So this was module 1. Module 1 which was last week. And in this module, our objective was identify the major communication theories related to storytelling, explain the factors that lead to miscommunication, identify effective communication strategies for storytelling, identify communication goals and purposes for storytelling. Those were the class objectives. So when your assignments come back, you'll get a notification up here. And as you can see, my professor, it says here, activity 1, communications goals, purpose release, feedback released. It also says here, communication goals and purposes. Your grade is A. Please do not hesitate to follow up with your instructor or academic advisor with questions or concerns. That's just a generic, that is a generic response. I think it's included all of that. This is another announcement, how to view feedback for your assignments. The professor gave that announcement out to everyone. Excuse me. And then I've got a couple other announcements down below. So that's how you're going to get your feedback, or once the professor grades your work, that's how they give you the feedback. So I had 2 assignments that were graded. If you go over here to the course menu, you can look at discussions, and let me go back. My mistake. You want to go over here to grades. Under grades, you can see the grade you get from your discussions and the grade you get from your activity. Both of those, I got an A. Yay! Give myself a hoop, hoop, hurrah. So for the discussion, everything you get back, all the grades you get back, you're going to have a rubric. The rubric is what the instructor uses to grade you on your assignments. So I love the rubric because it is clear exactly what the instructor is looking for in regards to the information to be graded. So they give the original feedback. You'll see how many points you have. Total points possible, 25. And I received 25 points. And then for both of those. So to view the first rubric, just to give you an overview of what the rubric breaks down to. So you have for the, this is for the discussion rubric. And what they're looking for is comprehension, timeliness, and engagement. So with timeliness, it's a gimme. With discussions, they cannot be late. They have to be Thursday. There is no makeup time for a discussion. If you don't get the discussion in, you don't get the points. That's why it doesn't matter. For the rest of this, exemplary is develops an initial post with an organized, clear point of view or idea using rich and significant detail, and engagement provides relevant and meaningful response posts with clarifying explanation and details. Very proud of myself on that. And then we have the other one, communications goals and rubric. If you view this rubric here, and it breaks it down, criteria goal exceeds proficiency in an excellent, clear, and insightful, sophisticated, or creative manner. Purpose exceeds proficiency in exemplary, clear, and insightful manner. Communication theories exceeded expectations. Miscommunications exceeded. Articulation of response exceeded. Citations, attributions exceeded. So, yes, that is a good feedback. Love it. Thank you. All right. So let's take a look at how we got to those two things. So first off, the scenario for this assignment. The overview is storytelling is one of the oldest forms of communication for humans, for both fictional and non-fictional stories. In the professional world, stories are often used to share information with your coworkers and management. Effectively communicating a story in a professional environment requires you to know how to identify and assess the major elements of communication process, the failures in the communication process, and the goals and purposes of the communication. So this scenario was interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. It was kind of annoying to read because I have witnessed similar situations or scenarios like this, and it was just annoying. So in this particular scenario, I am the manager of a team of writers of about 100 people, and my supervisor has asked me to attend a meeting that the vice president is giving. Now, my supervisor is going out of town on vacation. Therefore, they're not going to be able to attend this meeting. So I go to the meeting and I take notes in the meeting. Now, when I take my notes, obviously the system that I use, my note taking, is sufficient for me. Yet, in this scenario, I sent those notes to my supervisor, unedited, as is. Okay, as it says here, your method of note taking involves jotting down individual words to remind yourself of the meeting's major topics and writing down some of your immediate observations. And after you attend the meeting with the vice president, this is what it's telling me I'm supposed to do. I sent that email. I sent an email to invite my supervisor to a meeting once they come back from their vacation so that we can discuss the new initiative that the vice president established. The key element here is this. So later, when your supervisor has returned, you begin the informational meeting by telling the 3 items that the vice president wants to see by the next morning. Your supervisor is agitated when they hear this because they do not have the time to get all of they do not have the time to get all these items completed by tomorrow. They ask, why did you not tell them earlier that the vice president was expecting work to be done by the next day? You are frustrated because you thought you were doing your supervisor a favor by respecting their vacation time and saving this conversation when they were back at work. On top of that, it makes you angry that you're getting in trouble after doing your supervisor a favor by attending this meeting, since interfacing with executives and gathering information is not a part of your job. You respond to your supervisor by saying, "Didn't you read my notes attached to the meeting email?" All of this was listed in there. Your supervisor becomes even more upset, declaring that They did see the notes, but they found them to be rude and unprofessional. Your supervisor then tells you that while the vice president doesn't have a formal education on the project's subject matter, they have worked at the organization for years and has significant work experience that makes them qualified to spearhead the new initiative. At this point, you try to explain your intentions behind your notes and provide your supervisor some feedback. It's just a train wreck. This entire scenario is an absolute train wreck in communication. First off, let me just say that this would not be my scenario. If I was asked to go to the meeting, I would have gone to the meeting, taken my notes, and rewritten my notes before sending them to my supervisor, so that I would have made sure that what I intended to say was said. So that's why this scenario bothered me, because this is not a scenario that I would even engage myself in. So to have to pretend like I was that person was frustrating. So the goals here was to describe the communication goal and my rationale for why this. Here, let me switch over to the screen. I'm sitting here reading this. I want you guys to see this too. So the prompt was, describe the communication goal and your rationale for why this is the goal. Describe the communication purpose and your rationale. Justify how communication theories could be applied to the scenario, and explain how miscommunication impacted the communication process. And we read through some resources in the weekly assignment to help us get refamiliarized with what communication elements look like, communication theories, and all those bits and pieces that are part of communication. The whole purpose that I took this class, this degree, was because I witness miscommunication all the time, and I'm sure you do too. It's what we do every day. For me, it is frustrating to see leaders miscommunicate information. My expectation is when somebody is in a leadership position, they have communication skills. But I'm here to tell you, they don't. They don't. They don't. If you are new to the work environment, if you are new to the workforce, if you are familiar in the work environment and the workforce, I'm sure you've experienced this. Miscommunication is the norm. It is the norm. So here were all the goals and so forth. So let's take a look at what I wrote. I just want to share with you how I put my assignment together. So I use Word, and it says here, editor, over here to the right. This is showing that there are 7 editor suggestions, and we'll see those throughout the paper. And I want to draw your attention to what Word sees and considers to be a problem. And sometimes Word just doesn't have enough information to make a good AI suggestion. So here is my goal. So the primary purpose of attending the vice president meeting was to take notes regarding the new initiative. Using Lowry's 2014 blog post guidelines, understanding the goals and objectives is essential. For example, making notes while listening to the vice president's new initiative about the stated goals and objectives is helpful when communicating the information to the supervisor during the meeting. Also, maintaining a focus. Nozzle 2018 on gathering information to inform the supervisor and helping them get on the same page as the vice president can avoid miscommunication. Van Opzielen, 2017. The rationale is consistent with the transmission model of communication. The meeting with the vice president centers on disseminating information, therefore, intentional listening is vital. So, transmission model can be explained as if in the format of an email. I'm the sender of the email. I compose an email and then I send that email to you. You are the receiver. You receive that email, you read it, you decode it, and then you send your response back to me. That is what is considered transmission. That is the transmission model of communication. It is, we transmit back and forth to each other. We'll get into interactional, face-to-face interactional model is more of me talking directly to you face-to-face, and then we going back and forth. And social media has allowed us to do transactional communication through what they call computer mediated communication. So the purpose, using communication models can simplify a communication encounter. University of Minnesota. Using the elements of communication models helps understand the purpose of communication within the scenario. The overall aim included obtaining a message from the vice president and then sharing the information with the supervisor. So the communication theories that I addressed were looking at the scenario through the communication models, and the elements helps understand communication theory application. The participants include the manager, which was me, the supervisor, and the vice president. And each participant's purpose encompasses sending and or receiving a message. The verbal and nonverbal content discloses information from the sender to the receiver. For example, the manager obtains communication from the supervisor to attend the meeting and take notes. Then the vice president speaks to the employees and relays a message centering on a new initiative. Next, the manager shares the notes taken in the email back to the supervisor, thus using the interactional communication model. And then finally, miscommunication pitfalls are identifiable during the meeting of the supervisor and the manager. Using the communication elements encoding, decoding, and channels, the manager encoded a message and sent it to the supervisor, ignoring the decoding guidelines when sending a message via a medium best suited for explicit communication. And what I meant by that is we talked about implicit communication and explicit communication. Some channels are best for explicit communications, meaning you give certain details in communication mediums such as emails, versus implicit communications. It doesn't work in an email because you're leaving too much room for the message, what you're implying or what you're trying to say. So in that form of communication, I don't like to say me because I would never do that. But anyway, when the manager sent that information to the supervisor with their notes that they took, without explaining what those notes meant, they were using implicit communication form. They were relying on the manager to decode their notes as opposed to them decoding the notes using explicit communication. So miscommunication, written communication needs to be explicit to avoid miscommunication. The primary cause of miscommunication stems from the notes taken during the meeting with the vice president's new initiative announcement that required rewriting. Miscommunication leads to confusion, animosity, as you saw, they got angry with each other, and frustration between the manager and the supervisor. Understanding the purpose of communication plan and placing context before content can help the manager prepare and deliver a better message. With APA style, what you saw a lot of these parentheses is APA style citations called in-text citations. And then you list your references and You want to list them in alphabetical order, and you want to have an indent, what they call a hanging indent. And as you can see, I'm getting these little red squiggles underneath certain names. That's the way they spell their name, and you just ignore that kind of stuff. So what I also want to go back to, when you get your grade, let's go over here to assignments. Let me show you that. So when you get your grade and you click on this activity and read the feedback and so forth, the teacher writes a brief message about the feedback. Thanks for assessing this communication scenario. See the rubric, and she writes, turn it in for complete feedback. So down here at the bottom, you can see it has here, turn it in, and it gave me a 19%. What that's saying is 19% of what I wrote somebody else, it belongs to someone else. And turn it in is the school's way of making sure you don't plagiarize. And so there is a flaw, a bit of a flaw with this system. And I'm going to show it to you. When you click over here, this is when you click on the green bar. Let me go back here. When you click here, it'll pop open another window, and this is what you get, turn it in. And you can see over here on the right hand side, it has these little markers. Well, here are my 19. If you click on this, it'll say match overview, 19%. So it's saying that 16% of my student paper is connected to something. So you click on that, and it points to all my references. It's basically saying that it has identified this information here as being used or owned by somebody else. Yes, the references. The references will be used and owned by somebody else. So that is a Turnitin flaw. I laugh at this because, you know, when you look at this, you're like, wait a minute, I didn't plagiarize. I cited what you did. I did everything I was supposed to do. The system is designed to catch plagiarizing. And what it caught was, yes, I'm using citations that are used in other things. That's not a ding. That's why I got an A, because that's the instructor looks at that and they know, okay, these are the references. This is not plagiarizing. This is what she was supposed to do. So you have to ignore. I have to ignore it. I do. If I don't ignore it, it'll drive me crazy. And the same thing down here, it shows Nassau MD, his book is associated with Pressbooks.Publications. Yes, it is. That's his book. So that is Turnitin. As you see up here in my paper, nothing is, there's a note here, which is weird. You can combine both parentheticals at the end of the sentence to make for easier reading. Example, Smith, Jones. Okay. So that was, okay, that's cool. So what this note right here is saying that in this particular, sentence, I use Nossel and Van Opzielen. I use these two parentheses in that sentence where I could combine them at the end of the sentence. So that way I wouldn't have to, it would not be so confusing for the reader. That's what that's saying. So in future reference, I know that when I cite this, it would have been Nossel 2018, semicolon, and then Van Opzielen comma 2017, and then closing the parentheses and adding a period at the end. That's basically what that's saying. So that's good because I had not used that before. I did not do it incorrectly, but I can clean it up, is what the note is saying. Now, I presume that that note was given to me by the instructor feedback. Yes, that was the instructor feedback. So that's great. And so for future reference, that's what I will be doing. Okay, so we had a good week on that one. I'm excited. Things worked out well for that first week. This week, let me click over, see that I've already done the assignment for this week, but this week, the objective is dun, da, da, da. By the end of this module, you will meet these learning objectives. I will explain how storytelling has changed over time and its role in business communication today, and analyze the similarities and differences between storytelling within and across cultures. Now, I already did my discussion, and I handed that in, and I'll click over. These are the readings that I did. These were fun. I enjoyed reading this. The anthology, packed full of some good information. I already printed that off. This video about King Arthur's legend, which is one of my favorite stories, truthfully. The movies, they don't come to mind now, but they were made in the 80s. But they were favorite. I am a fan of mythology. The Kraken is one of my favorite movies. Not the Kraken. Clash of the Titans is one of my favorite movies. The old version, it is as fake and crazy as the graphics are. I still love it. And but King Arthur, this was a video that we saw. How did Dracula become Dracula? That's always a favorite. And then we learned about stories around the world. I like this article because it talks about the different ways that cultures tell their stories. So they talked about hula, the Chinese shadow puppet, Zajal, which I thought was fascinating. The classical Arabic version of a poetry slam or rap battle. Jazal originated in Lebanon and is practiced across the Middle East and the United Arab Emirates. Competitions pit one poet or spoken word artist against another. One poet recites a stanza, often insulting the opponent. Then the other responds with a stanza using the same meter and rhythm. Okay, how similar is that to rap battles? That to me was so fascinating. I did not do that as part of my discussion. I chose hula, and I chose two others that'll come up here. But they talk about Kunto. This is a Sicilian storytelling method. Rakugo, which is a Japanese storytelling method. Griot, I chose that one, which is griots or jealous are the traditional keepers of a society's history in West Africa cultures. Griot storytellers often play instruments such as the kora, similar to the lute, and preserve family and cultural histories in the manner of a geologist. In some West African cultures, griots were at once singers of praise and messengers for nobility. I chose that one to talk about my discussion. I'm going to butcher this name, but you see it here. Baratanatam. I chose that one. I find that dance and style of storytelling to be just fascinating. So those are my three: hula, the griot, and Baratam Yam. I know I'm butchering it. as my discussions for this week. Calypso. This is Harry Belafonte. He was well known for his calypso renditions, and that was the end of the article. But this was a really good article to read. I enjoyed it. It is from ideas.ted.com. And if I can share it with you, I will share it with you in this post so that you can, read it for yourself. And I am out of time. I went a little bit long. So that is the wrap up. You've got to see the beginning of the week, at the beginning of the course, my first week, and how that whole process happens from getting the assignments, overview the assignments, then reading the assignments, handing them in, and now the feedback that comes with that. Some feedback is good, some feedback is bad. Well, let me change that. All feedback is good. It may not be the feedback you want, but it is good. So I enjoyed sharing that with you guys. I'm going to take off here, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.